David Lemieux stops Gabe Rosado in the 10th round. You know, Lemieux is a front runner. He's an on-top type of fighter. He's a guy who, when he's dominating you, when he's pushing you back, when he's intimidating you with his power, he feels comfortable and confident. But the moment someone starts landing shots on him and pushing him back, he's the kind of guy that looks like he's about to unravel very quickly. And we've seen him unravel, obviously, in his 2 losses, especially his loss against Marco Antonio Rubio. He unraveled very, very quickly in that fight as soon as Rubio started having success. And there were moments here in this fight with Rosado where it almost looked as though Lemieux was going to unravel again. And it wasn't just because of lack of stamina, because that's what he blamed the Rubio fight on. And I think stamina definitely did play a fairly big part in the Rubio fight, but I also think it was a psychological thing there. I don't think it was only stamina. And that psychological issue, and maybe a technical issue as well, not just psychological, but technical. I think he has technical flaws there, stylistic flaws, and they raised their head again, I thought, in this fight with Rosado. For the most part, Lemieux was dominating, but when he had Rosado hurt, I believe he dropped Rosado in the 3rd round, and Rosado got up, started fighting back, and when he was fighting back, he managed to get Lemieux on the ropes and start landing some shots. And I just saw Lemieux's whole body language change, similar to what I saw in the Rubio fight. I saw his body language change. He started backing up. He was hesitant. And you don't like to see that kind of thing. I'm not sure that his will is that strong, particularly when he's up against it. So he's an on-top fighter. He's a front runner. He does have impressive punching power. He's one of these guys who idolizes Mike Tyson. He's got the black trunks and the black shoes and his version of a Mike Tyson hairstyle. And his boxing style is fairly reminiscent of Tyson. He's obviously not as good as Tyson. He doesn't have the head movement that Tyson had. He's obviously a middleweight, not a heavyweight, but he tries to take that Tyson, Customado, Floyd Patterson, Jose Torres style and do his thing with it. Doesn't have the dexterity of a Tyson, nowhere near. But he's heavy-handed. For a middleweight, he's heavy-handed. He's got decent hand speed, nothing amazing, but decent. He's a fairly compact type of guy. I believe he's around 5, maybe 5'9". He reminds me a little bit of Nigel Benn, actually. Reminds me a bit of Ben. I don't think he's quite as good as Nigel Benn, but he reminds me a bit of a young Nigel Benn. The way that he goes about his business and, you know, the bombs that he throws in and his intensity when he attacks. But I think Ben certainly had more resolve than David Lemieux. I think Ben definitely had more heart and more resolve and wouldn't unravel. Ben only really unraveled in the Michael Watson fight. But other than that, he was, yeah, you could say the Eubank fight, but it was a hell of a fight before he did unravel. And after that, obviously, he had the rematch with Eubank and the Gerald McClellan fight where he went through hell and high water to come through that fight. Obviously, went over and fought Iran Barkley in the States and Doug DeWitt and other people. So, yeah, Lemieux reminds me a bit of a young Nigel Benn without maybe the fortitude. Is he going to be a threat for Gennady Golovkin? I don't think so. I think Gennady Golovkin will walk through David Lemieux. Lemieux has a punch and anyone can be hurt, including Golovkin. Even though he looks invulnerable to a lot of people at the moment, Golovkin can be hurt if you catch him right, despite the fact he hasn't been down as an amateur or pro in over 300 amateur fights. The guy can be hurt if you catch him with the right shot in the right place with sufficient force, like anyone can be. Is Lemieux the guy to do it? Well, who knows, man? Who knows if he can land that nice compact left hook that he throws or one of those right hands over the top. You never know, but I wouldn't put any money on it. I think that Golovkin's technique is much better. I think Golovkin is a much harder man psychologically. I'm not sure who hits harder because it was a fairly decent barometer to look at Lemieux against Rosado. And I felt actually that Lemieux hurt Rosado more than Golovkin did. So their punching power might be fairly comparable. But skills-wise, I think Golovkin's a lot better than Lemieux. He cuts off the ring better. I think his defense is better. He just seems to have a better ring presence, and he controls the action much better than Lemieux is able to do. Lemieux is, I wouldn't say a sporadic fighter, but like I say, he's a front runner. He's a guy who needs to be on top all the time. He doesn't even like being in a competitive fight. The guy likes dominating his opposition. That's when he feels comfortable. If you make it competitive, you can see the confidence draining away from him very quickly. So I think that Golovkin would wipe the floor with him. I don't think it would be overly competitive. Lemieux might land a few shots here and there, but I think Golovkin would break his will pretty quickly. I think the fight will probably be over in 5 rounds. Lemieux, after his losses, has been away and said that he's improved his stamina. He certainly was still full of plenty of energy when this fight was stopped in the 10th round on the advice of the doctor and the referee. Rosado took a terrible beating. Certainly after round 6, 7, he started taking a real terrible beating after rallying a bit and coming back and hitting Lemieux with some shots. But yeah, he did show that his stamina has improved somewhat, but I don't know, man. When you're on top, it's easier to have good stamina when you're on top and you're beating your opponent up and your opponent's got a big swollen eye that he can't see out of. It's easier to have good stamina then. When you're in a fight where it's competitive and it's punch for punch and your opponent's hurting you just as much as you hurt him, then we'll see where your stamina's at. So, I don't know. Drop your comments below. Let me know how you felt about David Lemieux's performance against Gabe Rosado. How do you think Lemieux would fare against some of the top middleweights out there? Peter Quillin, Gennady Golovkin, Miguel Cotto, etc., etc. Drop your comments below. This is Hatman. I'm out.